Okay.
Hello, hello, and welcome. I am so excited. This is our very first interview show for our brand new group for Unity for Wellness and Peace Network. So, welcome, everybody. Welcome, change makers, because this is all about celebrating change makers. In fact, I think I may even start calling this the Celebrating Change Makers Show because we want to spotlight amazing change makers who are working on creating positive impact globally. Even if it starts in your own house, in your own neighborhood, we all have the ability with the internet to be able to impact globally. So I'm so excited today to be able to introduce a longtime friend. Today is Miss Kwesiwa. Say
Kwesiwa.
hello. Say it for me again.
Kwesiwa.
Kwesiwa. Okay, and I apologize because
That's
I
fine.
thought I had it right, but I apologize.
That's
But
quite all
welcome
right.
anyway.
Thank you for having me, Cheyenne.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we were chatting a little bit before, and I get the feeling you're a gal with some big visions here, and we want to hear about what it is that you're either working on or you intend to be working on in the very near future that can help to create positive global change. Care to share?
Global is quite enormous, but we are surprised when we find out that influences or even impact in our small environment sometimes do transcend beyond just our quarters,
Yes.
communities, but it can reach far and be able to impact and touch lives.
Hmm.
There are many things. Again, I want to just say thank you for this opportunity to sit and talk with you, Cheyenne. It's been a number of years. There's been some quiet moments on my end, but I'm grateful that today we get to connect and be able to share in the visions for
Hmm.
myself and then even some of yours, and hopefully it'll reach those that um, can relate
Hmm.
and be able to impart and support one another as we move forward.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right now, I'm working on a program or I'm standing up a program that would support parents who have children on the autism spectrum disorder. Um,
Mm.
and this program is supposed to not only give those interventions needed for the children that have been either diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, but to be able to support those who have yet to receive a diagnosis, right? And this enormous responsibility that a parent who did not envision when carrying a child might face and what it looks like. So I have some work books that I've created that would help a parent to know how to tease through those development stages, what to look for as compared to what the red flags are, compared to what the red flags are with their child. Because if you're a first time parent, you wouldn't know what to look for, right?
Mm.
As I have experienced with my son who's now 28, I didn't know what to look for. But this workbook at least allows you to look and compare the normal milestones in the development stage from 0 to school age, five
Mhm.
years. If we're able to capture those issues early on, if there's an issue, then we can address, and then it gives flexibility for you one to be able to find providers that fits the family lifestyle or the needs,
Mhm.
and then also knowing what to ask to the pediatrician and
Mhm.
knowing what the next steps are. So that's the baby that I'm working vigorously on to stand up. And as important as it is to be able to help all, we know that the disparities and the deficiencies in some populations, the minority populations, it's a thing. We don't
Mhm.
use it as an excuse by no means, but it's a reality, and it requires embracing it, acknowledging it, and working through it.
Mm.
So, what one of my goals is to be able to give the representation that is needed because sometimes it's a trust factor. If I go and talk to you, Cheyenne, even though I love you, about an issue that you might have had an experience with or an expertise in, it's going to look different in how I even um, make myself vulnerable to you than if I were talking to someone who looks like me, or
Mhm.
understand some of those pitfalls and some of those hard conversations, and I'll be more open to talk about it. So it isn't just a service, it's, given that wraparound and that fidelity of a program to clients, the children involved, and their parents and caregivers. So that's
Wow,
a
wow.
mouthful, right?
It is, but obviously it's a mouthful coming from the heart, and you've already
Right.
kind of given a little bit of an indication about this, but tell us a little bit more. Why are you so passionate about doing this kind of work?
It is born from my own personal challenges, my own personal gaps that I
Mhm,
experienced, and also the mistakes that I made along the way because of the lack of the necessary resource or
mhm,
go-to persons, and the community that I was lacking when I was raising my children. And it isn't, even though it's one who has the autism diagnosis, it affects the entire family. So
mm,
that's where the passion is, and
mm,
um, along the way, because I didn't know that I carried this heart when I was parenting. But along the way, I've learned a lot about who I am as an individual and understand that this journey isn't to be walked alone. So when
mm.
someone is enduring and is going through an ouchie, it's they don't need to bear it alone. So having
So
gone
having
through
gone
moments of
through
bearing it alone and having had some supports along the way, I just feel like it is really incumbent for
for
our communities to be able to rally around one another, whether it's in supporting deficiencies in children with disabilities or even adults with disabilities. It is important to also hold our hands and kind of walk that journey, because what you might have might help me, and perhaps while you're helping me, it might also help you, because it's hard to go it alone.
mm,
Um, it's hard to
yeah,
do anything alone. Even if we say we have all the resources, you'll tire out, right? You have the intellectual abilities. Someone else might have a perspective or a different way of handling it that might be a little bit more efficient than you do. So, um,
wow,
yeah,
wow. Amazing. And, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about all these people that I would love to connect you with because I have bumped into quite a few folks who are very dedicated to working with individuals and families that are on the spectrum. So
yeah.
definitely I will be doing some follow-up with you to see if there's some folks that you might be interested in chatting with.
Thank you.
But I'm curious because I know this has been, as much passion as you have behind it, it's been kind of a challenge for you to really get
Has
it
been.
launched. Are you willing to share what you feel the biggest challenge has been?
Without sounding like I'm upset or, well, yeah, I don't mind sharing. I think transparency is one of my, maybe that should have been my middle name, Kwesiwa, Transparency, Kwesinsaki. And in my transparency, it doesn't matter that I do not appear or present positively or great, and it's okay. I'm okay with that. I don't always have to present positively or as though I know everything, because I don't. And again, being vulnerable, I think, is a strength, and that's if I have to cry, I've had to do that a few times, but it's been challenging. Challenging in the sense that the process, I don't believe, and it's an opinion, but I'll share it. I don't believe that it needs to be that difficult, especially when you're going into the marketplace. Um, it is being able to contribute to your community to enhance, maybe enhance or provide a solution or an aid to a problem. So if one is trying to go and provide a solution or aid in the problem that exists, it should not be that different. I mean, that difficult. But I've found that to be quite a challenge. When you're standing up a business, if you have, say, a source of income, maybe an extra person in the house that holds the bills. It gives you the flexibility. But if you don't have that, then how do you juggle? I think this is where a lot of people, at least why it's taken me so long, may drop the ball. But then they may have something quite invaluable that if they have the support and the necessary resource that is needed, it would change and shape, our culture, our communities. Let's start with the communities before we go to culture, right? In a small
Yes.
way and then build up on it. Um, I have found it very difficult. I have found it very, 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 very difficult. Without getting into details, I can
Mhm.
say that I have found uh, personnel in certain environments that seem like gatekeepers, like hold the line. And that's me being candid. Hold the
Mhm.
line. Because when I do talk to parents, I was doing this informally without monetizing it and helping anybody that had need for maybe some advice or how to navigate the system with the schools. If they knew that I had a child with a disability or autism, someone will refer and say, "Hey, can you help so and so?" Right? And I've
Mhm.
done it. But as I've been trying to formalize it and trying to get into, let's say, schools to be able to provide those behavior modification and shaping, which every child needs, but even more so when they have the neurodiversity diversity issues, it's been like pulling teeth. And
Mm.
sometimes I do some reflection to see maybe there's something I could do differently. And the introspection may offer some suggestions. I'll do them and still reach out, and it's hold the line. They're gatekeepers. I'm sorry to say that way. And if anybody disagrees with me, show me that way, you know, and I'll take it. And then I'll come back and then change my sentiment about the gatekeeper. So that's been my challenge
Okay.
in
All
raising
right.
my business. Yeah.
I gotcha. Well, and I don't believe you're the only one who has come up against those gatekeepers. In my personal experience, I can tell you that there's been a number of times where I definitely felt, because so much of what my husband and I teach, and so much about what we share with people, is based on our experience. Okay, we don't have any fancy degree, we don't have any fancy certifications. We have real world experience, and we can tell people what works and what doesn't. And there are gatekeepers who are looking for all those fancy letters after your name. I
But
can
yet
imagine.
they don't have those so-called titles of their own. They don't. It's
Right.
just that this is to be shared,
Mhm.
right? This is to be
Mhm.
shared and this is supposed to reach, and the market is big enough.
That's
But
right.
that has not been the case in certain environments.
Well, hopefully, we can help you make some new connections where you can find ways over, around, and through gatekeepers, or you can find ways to get directly to the people who need what it is that you have, because
Yeah.
the need is huge out here. And this is one way to go about reaching more of those people, is to find more places where you can have a stage online and be able to reach out to more people. So I'm going
Yeah.
to hold that vision for you, my dear, because
Thank
I
you.
know that whatever you've experienced that you have to share with other people, it's important, it's real. And if you've got results that you can show in terms of, what you've been able to do with your son, then that is stuff that people need to hear. So we will
Thank
hold
you.
that
I
for you.
appreciate that very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you another question. So, in the future, And again, I know we're just going to believe that there is an opportunity, a pathway for you that will work for you, where you can be able to get out here and do more to serve the population you're choosing to serve. But do you see anywhere in the future an opportunity where it would be helpful to have a team of people that are working with you, maybe collaborators who, maybe have different kinds of services and such that they can provide to families dealing with a child on the spectrum? I mean, is that part of your vision? And it's okay if
It
it's
is.
not. I just like to know.
Yeah, it is part of my vision because the holistic approach to autism and any social need isn't one. Is it isn't it requires a lot of different capabilities. It
Mhm,
requires a lot of different skill sets, and one cannot do it all. And hence why I've reached out to different organizations that may already have the business underway, and I've done some research to find out where the gaps are so that
mhm,
I'm not duplicating, right?
right.
And looking at those areas where I can either support, and so with that said, yeah, I'm very open to collaborating with others, and where I do not have the bandwidth to be able to provide certain needed services. Absolutely. I'm looking for the right people to align with my vision if theirs is already in place, or do not even have, but to also come on board and to be able to help me champion this further, because it makes sense to be able to not get part of service, because then the effort will be futile. It requires us looking at it holistically to make sure that, as some would call it, the fidelity of a program has to have all the necessary components to be able to make it successful.
Mhm,
So yeah, I'm very open to that, and where I may have one strength, another person may bring a different type of strength and a resource that can really support and work this through. So partnerships are very welcome, and I'm
awesome.
open to it.
Well, how can people find you if they wanted to reach out to you and see if there's some way they could work with you?
So there's a website that is still being tweaked and being modified as I go along.
Mhm.
It is www. Dot what hyphen is hyphen autism.org. So it
Oh,
is what hyphen is hyphen autism.org.
wonderful, wonderful. So great. Well, that is beautiful, and I'm definitely gonna go check out that site because I wanna learn more about what you got going on. So is there any final thought that you'd like to share with everybody in the group?
Well, besides being grateful to be able to have this conversation with you, I just want to add that a person does not need to have, like we said, and you also shared, does not have to have many titles or appear great on paper in order to be valued. A
Yes.
person does not necessarily have to have um, the wealth in order to be taken seriously.
Mhm,
Um, we all have a purpose if we're keyed and honing into it. There is a purpose with which we need to be able to fulfill and
mhm,
impart while living. And it may be a small part or maybe a big part, but it is important to not look at um, an appearance or a cover to
mhm,
determine if there's value. And case in point, there's so much I've learned from my son when he was young, and he has a diagnosis of autism. But I've learned so much as a parent, and I was also a parent of him, but he's taught me so much. So there's a lot of value in individuals if we kind of get beyond looking at the the superficial side of things, which is just appearances.
mhm.
And opening up our hearts to be able to build, we'll be all better for it. And hopefully, when we come back to together to talk again, I will be able to share the bigger picture because there's another um, poll that I have to be able to address a much bigger problem. Autism is part of it, and that
Mm,
is enormous, and I think it's so needed. And if I can leave that without going into details, we need to focus on not taking care of just the superficial things, but get deeper and healing. We need healing in this country. We need healing in our world, which is the bigger picture. We should not be only consumed with the gaining, the gaining, and gaining, and leaving that carbon footprint that is horrible. And complaining, we need to actually do something to mitigate, remedy, and help and heal all that we have done, including myself. We all have contributed to how things have not worked well. So we can start with ourselves and be open to healing one another because we need that. That's very important. It probably would eradicate autism and all the other diseases and conditions that we hear so much about. So
I understand, and I thank you for those
thank
words of
you.
wisdom to close us out. That's why we're called Unity for Wellness and Peace, is
Yeah,
because we are working on bringing people together. You know, I do believe when two or more are gathered with the same intention, you're just boosting that vision, boosting that belief, and creating more opportunity for the peace and prosperity and wellness that we all deserve. So
yeah.
thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today.
you.
I am so grateful. And we'll see all of our change makers again. We've got more interviews that are all scheduled this week. So this was just the first of many to come. Jump in, listen up, get to know some of our members, and see who can you be working with to help create the change that we know in our hearts is possible. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you again real soon.
Thank you, Cheyenne.